Let me know.
Yeah.
Hey guys, Jedi Mom here.
Hey, Jedi Mom.
We're going to be discussing this book, Leia, Princess of Alderaan by Claudia Gray.
Which she is taking care of so gently.
Yes, I've taken care of so gently that it's all bookmarked and everything. And I asked people to come up with a quote that resonated with them from the book, and then we're going to talk about Leia's trials and how they relate to Jedi trials. How are they different? How are they the same? And we'll start there. Okay. So Allie, you said you had a quote from Mon Mothma that you wanted to read?
Yes, my quote's from Mon Mothma.
When in the book does it happen? And
so okay. It happened. I don't even really know when it happens because I listened to it on audiobook.
Yeah.
But it comes about at a point where everyone's starting to finally understand the weight of what it means to start a rebellion. Because that's kind of the formation of what's going on in this book, is that you're starting to see the beginning phases of this rebellion that's starting up. So they have people that are struggling with this idea and this concept, and this quote really resonated with me, being from a military background. For those that don't know, used to be military police. I deployed to Iraq, though I never saw combat. I was only in detainee operations, but still, this resonated with me. And it said, there comes a time when refusing to stop violence can no longer be called nonviolence. We cease to be objectors and become bystanders. At some point, morality must be wedded to action, or else it's no more than mere vanity. Mon Mothma.
Wow, that's a good quote. Can't find that. So what did that say to you?
So it speaks to me in the sense of, we witness a lot of things that go on, and there is a balance there to decide on when action is necessary. If I look at, say, just not to get political, but let's just talk about early on, United States. We're overrun by this king who's in another country across the pond, and it doesn't make sense that we're part of this anymore, because like he doesn't know what's going on here, and he's trying to rule us, and the world ain't big enough for that, and he's not listening. King's not listening to anything that we have to say. Crown just doesn't care. So you have these people who are, we call them our founding fathers: George Washington, Andrew Jackson, Benjamin Franklin, like all of them. And
Alexander Hamilton.
Alexander Hamilton. And whether you like these guys or not, because I know there's a lot of problems with them, whether you like them or not, they realize that nothing is getting done, and they're seeing everybody around them just fall into oppression over what the crown is doing. The tea tax, so they go out and whatever. At some point, they have to look at it, and they're like, we have tried everything. We have actually tried everything, and we are the people that did try. So the senators, and this is like in a congregation of people who are senators. Like, it really did remind me of kind of probably how it must have looked like when you had our founding fathers coming together, and they're just like, we have to do something. We have tried all of these different avenues to make something work. And then you just have to accept, at some point, we have to go into violent action, because if we don't, we're just going to get mowed over, and so is everybody else that we're supposed to be watching after. And that is something like, and that's something else that I kind of like to try to bring when I actually teach a class, or I have taught a class. Back when I had Let's Regroup, Building Stronger Citizens, I built a class, and I was teaching people that it's not the lay person who has the responsibility of being the ones that rise up to start a revolution. It's actually the people who are on top, and then you rally to them. And if you have nobody that's standing there ready to do it, it becomes we're all bystanders at that point, or we're terrorists that don't have a way forward to do anything. And it's the worst thing when the people who are in charge become bystanders. Like that's what this really pulled to me was, you can have like Saw Gerrera was doing all kinds of things and they didn't agree with what Saw Gerrera was doing, but he didn't really do much. He was just a terrorist doing whatever at his own whims. Like if you guys read this book, you'll understand what I mean by that. But he's doing things at his own whims. And the senators all have to look at themselves, and it has to be, we are the ones that have to step up. Otherwise, we are the bystanders, and we're the ones hurting them the most. Not Saw Gerrera. He's hurting us too, but we're the ones hurting them the most because we're not doing anything.
Do you think Leia's actions on several of her missions help that or hurt it though? Because when it's like when she comes into a situation as I'm the princess of Alderaan, you know, with my fancy hair, and here's what I want to do for you, versus when she goes out in like regular clothes and just as a person and tries to deal with things.
So when a lot of the things that she deals with, she doesn't know. And like, that's something that's so beautiful about this, because it points out in the books that if you're not actually with the people who are the tactical brains, because tactical, like there's a reason we have officers who focus on tactics in the Army. And then you have the lay people who execute it, the NCOs and whatnot that execute. You have your tacticians and the people that execute. And the whole purpose of this is they can see things that the lay people don't have access to information. And that's what Leia was. She didn't have access to information.
Right.
And because she didn't have that access, she kept making things worse. Is that her fault? Not entirely.
No, it's not entirely.
But it does show the value of being trained to do what you're doing and being in the know of how actions connect to each other and how they impact things. And she was learning. That's like the biggest thing in here. I think there's a quote in here. I don't remember where, but I swear that there was a quote in here, something about how failure is a great teacher.
Yes. There was.
I mean, it's obviously not a quote specific to the book. That's one in the world that we all know, but I loved that it was put in there to just kind of call to her attention. You might be failing. And you might not know what you're doing. And your parents may be very upset with you about everything, but it's also because they're keeping you in the dark. And they have to recognize at some point in time that you keep trying and you're trying to learn how. And that's the most beautiful thing in this. You're trying to learn how.
Yeah. It's like I found another quote from Mon Mothma that kind of goes to that. And it's when they finally involve her and stuff. And she says, Leia Organa is not a child. Her voice carried through the room, commanding the kind of attention that would halt a more crowded gathering than this one. She slowly stood. Leia has had her day of demand. She's growing into an adult, a representative of the next generation. And make no mistake, they're the generation who will bear the brunt of what's to come. What?
You said you took my quote.
You just took my quote, you brat.
Did I take the quote? I'm so sorry. Oh no, you talk about read the quote, Ross. Dad, you take it.
No, now I feel like
No, I didn't finish. I didn't even get halfway through it. Go ahead. It's on page 313.
Well, no, I have it written down as part of what you wanted, but yeah, well, I want to participate. Anyway, it said Leia had her day of demand. She's growing to an adult, a representative of the next generation. and make no mistake, they're the generation who will bear the brunt of what is to come. They're the ones who will do the most fighting and the most of the dying. They're the ones who will do most of the rebuilding afterward. If we are so fortunate to see an after, we need the growing we need the youth, we need the young with us. Without them, this war is lost before it's even begun. So, and Mon Mothma said that, and that really speaks about the whole, like you said, understand the generational involvement, about understanding that she's a young girl, but she's very, very much involved. And the only way that they're gonna it goes from when she was just going with the whole rebellion thing and all the way through to when the First Order happens. But like at a very young age, she was capable of making important decisions and all the things that happen shaped in the future.
Mhm.
So how does that getting involved, and what does her failure teach her? Russ, you know about this kind of thing. People fall aside, and they fall to the wayside, but then they learn something from that.
There was actually another quote by, I hope I pronounce this right, by Care, where it says nobody learns anything new without failing the first few times they
Right.
try. You have to face that and figure out how they get back up again. That means learning how to fail is the most important lesson of all. And you want to be fast to fail. The fact of the matter is, failing teaches you that you make mistakes. My father used to tell me all the time that he wanted me to learn from his mistakes so that I didn't have to make them. He said, Ross, you have yet to walk in the steps where I have been. And he says, and when I tell you that this is what I did and it worked, then it's worth copying. And if I did something and it didn't work out, hopefully you'll be smart enough to listen to me so that you don't have to feel the pain. Now, I've talked about in my martial arts classes the same way. I go, look, you could either listen to me because I've already had to suffer the pain. I had to get pounded into the ground. I had to be broken, thrown, all kinds of things. And I'm trying to teach everybody else, hey, you don't have to go through this. I could teach you how to avoid that. But sometimes you have to feel the pain. Um, as a young child, my son felt it necessary to walk up and grab the lit end of one of my cigars, and I felt horrible about it. But he learned that it is not always important nor smart to find out that it's hot. If I tell you it's hot, it's sometimes more important to believe me.
Mhm.
So Leia is a combination of both. She really is being told things by her parents, and yet she's a little stubborn and she wants to figure things out for herself. And at the same time, she's always learning from everything that goes on around her, because later on she winds up teaching those lessons to others. So it's kind of along the
Mhm.
same lines of what I said.
Mhm.
Yep.
Also, I like to remember that that when we're talking about Kier, that he's a historian. So he's already learned, he knows about the stuff without having experienced it, because he's read about it, because his mom's professor and he's a historian. So
Mhm.
already looked at this stuff from the outside, and now all of a
Mhm.
sudden he's on the inside of it with Leia and their little pod of
And
friends.
he's wise enough to choose to
Mhm.
say these records that talk about these things are telling the truth, and
Mhm.
therefore you should listen to them and adhere to them and learn from them, and not simply ignore them and be doomed to repeat the mistakes.
Okay. Good. Um. Ooh.
Surprised
I
you,
have a
surprised you, didn't I?
Go ahead. No, it was good. It was good. I was wondering if you had anything else to add to that. And,
No, that's pretty much where I stand on that for sure.
I wonder if Gabe remembers what his vote was.
where is Gabe? Is Gabe still
Is he
here?
still there?
Oh, yes, I'm
Yeah,
here.
he's still here.
He doesn't have a quote. He's driving.
Oh no, well, no, I was able to get because my quote came from Amlin Holdo,
Oh,
who I who I must say at first I thought she just came across as a ditzy character, but as the the story went on, I was just able to see, no, she's just had a different experience and sees things through a different lens. And that actually helps to get a bigger perspective when you have all these different people around you that can just see things differently. And the quote from her was, good intentions aren't enough. They're not
Yeah.
meaning, but that's where we have to start, not where we end. That's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
Valenza, we try to lead the life of the mind, and in our culture, intentions can have great influence. We discuss them, judge by them, but in the galaxy at large, things are, well, less pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just making me, yeah, we're just always like, oh, like we intend to do good, or like this is not what I wanted to do. This is what I was hoping. The actions also have consequences, and that also we just can't stop at just, oh, thought this would help. Like you have to kind of see it all the way through. And that's why it encouraged her to just go ahead and join the resistance. It wasn't enough that she just kind of gave lip service or would help financially by getting ships and whatnot. Then she saw like, no, I'm going to be in this 100%. This is a travesty that's happening in the galaxy, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure it stops.
There's a rando line when she's talking to Winme Lens, and he says, sometimes the fates align us with what we need most. And that kind of struck me a little bit. Because you find the path that you're supposed to find. And that's what Leia's doing. She's trying different things and finding the path that she can do the most good, and trying to keep stuff from her parents as well at the same time. My favorite Amilyn line is this illegal? Did we find crime? I mean, I think she stole every scene she was in.
Her like this. Did we find crime? Like
with all her goofy hair and her clothes, and then she comes in at the end. And she's more subtle. She's got green hair, yeah, but she's got a nice blue dress on, and she's a rebel because everybody on her planet wears like the same color and stuff, and so she goes completely all out, and she's a true eccentric, but she makes a lot of really good points, and I think she's a really good support for Leia.
There was a really good point with Emmeline that I loved, and that was how she showed that even your hobby can turn into something scholarly. So she goes in and she like they come in, and then she's like, oh yeah, we were in this star system and we were looking for XYZ. And then she like talks about how astrology says, and oh, you must be this. And the guy's just kind of like, sure. And it even makes you look, what was it? It was like, there's something about being flirtatious or whatever. And she was very flirtatious with him. And I was like, and Leia's just like, your star systems, like the fact that you study star systems, that's how you knew which one would be closest.
Right.
To, keep to cover that we were in a star system that just got blown up, and so nobody would know that that's where we were. And it was just kind of really interesting to just see anything you do can be something of support in different ways. You just got to find the creative use for it. She was a great character.
She's a great character. She played off Leia really well. I have a quote that's from let me see. She's talking to Kier, and let me see, where are we here? My memory sucks. Amilyn says, it's a big galaxy. Entire planets sometimes escape our notice. That's just natural. But Leia says, she says, I've been feeling discouraged lately, she admitted. Knowing what we know reminds me of how much there is to be done. When I let myself get discouraged, though, I don't see the opportunities actually accomplish something good. He weighed her words for several paces more. She liked the comfortableness and silence between them. You're always asking what you can do for the greater good. Nonplussed, Leia nodded. Every once in a while, it's okay to just live for yourself. I'm not telling you to be, I know, selfish or trivial. You never want that. That's not who you are. but it's all right to just, be a person. Every once in a while, you can let go and live in the moment. I think you have to, because if you're carrying the weight of the world every single day, you get tired. You don't have your strength when you need it most because you already burned yourself out. And she's thinking, that sounded much too familiar. He continued, it's okay to want some things just for yourself, to go out and have fun once in a while, to be glad your world is secure and the people you care about are safe. Now, is he just like ignoring everything that's happening, or is he just like the positivity fairy, and saying that kind of stuff, or does he really loves Alderaan? That's what he wants to do, is to save Alderaan. And I lost my thought.
No, you're good. I mean, that, and it shows a few different things. Like, one, there's the self-care angle that he's kind of expressing needs to happen. And then there's also the fact that what he sees Alderaan as, like, what good it could be in the universe. And so you have this, so let's kind of go back to the Mon Mothma position. You have this dichotomy where you could be a force of good in the galaxy by starting up this rebellion and moving forward, and eventually we get to where we are. But then you have this real fear that we see start to generate in this book, which is really interesting. She knows that there's a possibility Alderaan could get destroyed, and Kier's the first one to voice that. And he doesn't want that to happen, because in his view, being a safe haven is more important than getting involved in a fight. And they're not bad positions to hold. Sometimes that is what you need to be, is the safe haven.
Here it is. This is the part you're talking about, where she says, if her parents were revealed to be in rebellion against Emperor Palpatine, the entire house of Organa would be destroyed. Leia would die alongside her parents. Maybe the stormtroopers would even burn the palace to the ground. And I'm like, oh my God, they did a lot worse than that.
Oh yeah.
That's the worst thing. That's the worst thing she can imagine, is her parents dying, her dying, the palace being burned down. That's she takes it as far as she can at that moment. And she can't imagine that anything could completely just blow up her entire planet and it's just gone forever. Right.
But Kier eventually sees it, though.
Yeah.
He's the one that kind of brings it to the forefront. That could happen to our planet, and you're putting not just yourselves in jeopardy, you're putting all of us in jeopardy.
Right. We were talking about this before the guys came in, about how she goes from being a very like a sheltered small town girl, basically, to this princess in a castle, with all the braids and everything, and talk about all that kind of stuff, to being a real force in the what's going to be the rebellion. And then we look at her and we say, oh my gosh, well, we know how all this turns out. It's kind of weird knowing her reading this book and then knowing what's going to happen in 3 years. Our planet's going to be gone, and she has nothing. They didn't really address. It's like, I feel like they missed some opportunities in the movies, because she didn't really seem to grieve a whole lot for like everything she lost. They didn't explore that, and I thought that was something that was missing, that we needed to see more of that from Leia going forward.
See, I think that in some way I think that maybe not having it in the movies, but having like a book or something that describes how she finally was able to grieve after she got past her crisis would show how important it was for her to focus on the crisis now, before she could get to that point and she could finally break.
Right.
And so it would give her a human angle, but it would also give her this is the strength of character she had to build up to this point before she could deal with everything else. And but she also has that human angle. So I think that it would be good for like a book to establish that she did do that between what is it? I don't know the two movies. A New Hope and which one is it? Return of the Jedi? Empire. I get the three confused.
It's okay. You're only running a Jedi Federation. We accept that. That's okay. You remember
In
the
a
movie.
Force Academy.
We don't care about the movies. We don't care if you know the movies. You just, you're just running a an international Jedi organization, Allie. Gabe, where are you? What do you got? Gabe, come on.
Allie not knowing the movies, or she knows them.
I've never gotten an from you before. That's weird.
Well, the whole grieving thing, I sometimes wonder if perhaps the whole reason that the resistance is happening and her work towards it is because she hasn't been grieving. So she's been focusing all her time and energy into the fight.
Yeah.
Is that a possibility?
I think it is. The next book we're going to read is going to tell us that. So. Okay. Yeah. I didn't write down a lot of questions. I kind of just thought people would would talk. So, Ross, you have anything else? Ross? Maybe he would fall asleep. Ross.
I would like to jump in.
Sure, please.
The previous quote about the whole generations thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting to always having that at the forefront of my mind, being a teacher, and I work with preschoolers, and I see some of these behaviors that they do and how it is important on how I use language and mannerisms, and because the kids do pick up on it. And the things that I pick up from them as well. That one of the things is how they will invade each other's personal space.
Okay.
And even some people just going and giving kisses and hugs, which at one level seem very innocent, but at another level, I'm like, oh, but then these kids are not learning to ask permission from the other person, or when these actions are appropriate. And so we've gone to where we just tell the kids, if you want to give somebody a hug, go ahead and ask them, do you need a hug? Because they may not want a hug. There are some people who just aren't huggers at all. I know people in our own Jedi community who weren't huggers, but kind of became it because other people were huggers. Yep. And so, but we need to be be respectful of the fact that not everybody processes information the exact same way, and or expresses information the same way, or feelings for that matter. And it's just interesting how the generations also change, because again, some things were acceptable during one generational time, but then it moves to a different one. Because again, I was not used to having to ask permission, oh, is it okay if I hug you, or oh, please ask me if I need to be hugged, or something like that. That was not my upbringing, but now that is the whole idea of permission and agency, and I see the value in that. And it's just in a way how each generation we kind of experience more and learn more.
Okay, and how does that go back to Leia? Take it around, Gabe.
Yeah, so going back to Leia, that's essentially her whole upbringing as well, because at first her parents are keeping information from her. But as she goes on and learns more, she's like, oh, now I see why they were doing these things. But at the same time, had they told me ahead of time, I could have helped. I could have don't keep me in the dark. Children know a lot more and see a lot more than we realize. And the more we try to protect them, the worse it is for them, the harsher it is. They live in this world. They need to know what to do.
Right.
It's our job to let them know what to do or how to think so that they can handle these things.
So do you think Bail and Breha made a mistake as parents by not explaining stuff to her, by saying you're too young to understand this, you don't understand this, we don't want to get you involved in this, when it's obvious that she's eventually going to be involved in it if she's the invested princess?
Yes, I think they could have done a few things differently. They might not have been able to involve her in completely, but you know, maybe given her at least some tasks that would have been helpful. It's like, hey, I'm sure you see that this world is hurting. Maybe you can help out by doing this or this or this. They could have given some options and just have her actually, you know, then she would have actually had a little bit more experience, a little bit more of an idea, and be able to make better judgments. Because again, like when she was on the ship and she saved all these people by, you know, giving them jobs on the ship
Jobs,
because
yeah. Oh,
this
Bonnie.
and this and this, and but it ended up screwing the entire thing because they're going like, oh, but we were already planning on doing this. Like, well, she didn't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, you know, that's actually a really interesting point. I know that you wanted to talk about her 3 trials, and this kind of starts in with that.
Okay.
With the trial of the heart, one of the things that she said in the book was when Bail Organa, yeah, Bail Organa was like, hey,
Jimmy Smith.
yeah, there you go. When he's like, okay, listen, here's the list of planets you can go to. You can't go to any other planets. And then she says in her, but this was supposed to be my trial of the heart. Shouldn't I get more say in that? Should, like, it's not genuine if I don't get to pick these places myself.
Mm-hmm.
And she felt hurt by that alone. So, even being told by her parents that, okay, look, this is what we, or this is like what you could do, like giving her suggestions, it would have felt to her, well, I'm not really doing my trial of the heart, which I can see her saying that because she did say that after whatever. But if they had gone to her and been like, I know you're gonna, like, if she had gone and said, okay, look, I'm gonna go to this place, I'm gonna go to Labani, they could have been like, okay, listen, this is what's going on. It is highly political. You're going to see some really awful stuff there. Let's just prepare you for that. Understand that you will have to endure a lot when you witness it. But we're trying to do X, Y, Z. Just keep it to the mission that you set out with. You have to steel yourself against what you're going to see, because steeling yourself first is the first step in actually doing people real good.
The quote that I marked is, again, she's talking to Kier. Then she remembered Wabani, how proud she'd been of herself and her royal authority, so sure she knew what to do and how to do it. Instead, she'd made a mistake that affected thousands of lives, maybe permanently. Never before had Leia doubted the wisdom of their hereditary monarchy, but now she thought, I inherited power before I earned it. I missed that power, and I misused that power, and people got hurt. And that's when she starts her journey to like self-awareness, and that she can't just like go into these things, you know, like willy-nilly. She can't just jump into a situation and expect it to go her way, because every time she jumps into a situation by herself, she does exactly the wrong thing.
Right.
You know,
and I think she needed to learn that.
She did, and it took her several tries to get that right. It took her several tries. I mean, she brought the drugs to the people. They didn't want the vaccines to people. They didn't want that. And she brought the mining supplies, and they were like, well, the Empire's just going to see it. There's no use in giving us this. They're, you know, she's like the, you know, she's like Daenerys Targaryen, kind of.
Yeah.
Right. She comes in and she's the great white savior, and she's, here's medicine, here's food, here's weapons, here's this, here's that. It's like, you know, doesn't work that way. You can't just like force people to take what you think is best for them. You know, she goes in thinking
and that's
she knows
real
what's best
world
for people.
knowledge right there.
And
that's
right.
real world information right there, because like in real world situations, we have missionaries that go out and they just think, oh, I know what these people need. And instead of like integrating into the group and finding out, okay, like for example, there's a tribe out there that's like, they didn't have clean water. So somebody thought, I'm going to give them clean water. And then they never used the clean water because that's not what they needed. I think they actually took the stuff apart and used it for other things, but no one really talked with them because they've lived with that dirty water for so long. Their body's used to it. It's not the same as us.
There's something very weird about that, is that that's weird. Okay. When my dad was in Korea in the army, he worked at a water purification plant about 10 miles from the front. And they purified water for the troops, and the UN troops and the American troops. And the Korean people didn't want their water. I mean, literally, it's the same exact story. The Korean people didn't want anything to do with it. They were very, they were villagers, and they were set in their ways, and they wanted to do things. And here comes the US Army, and no offense to the US Army, but here comes the US Army, and thinking that they know what's best for the people in Korea. And my dad realized that we didn't know crap about the Korean people. As he got to know them, he got to know some people, and he had a lot of friends who were Korean, learned to speak Korean. He ate their food. He involved himself in their culture, and he and his friends realized, you know what? We just leave these people alone and help them if we can, but wait for them to come to us. They know we're here. They'll come to us if they need something, and they did. But you can't force stuff on people if it's not their culture. We can't just come in storming in and like take over the place. It doesn't belong to us. We were trying to help them, but where does help end and damage begin? It's the same thing. And it's like the Federation not involving themselves in the affairs of planets that don't already have warp drive. It's kind of like that.
Well, we just jumped genres.
We just jumped genres.
we're also Trekkies here.
To the quote from Holdo about intentions is where it starts.
Sorry, Gabe?
That's sense. No, it just jumps back to that quote by Holdo, and like good intentions should be where it starts, not where it ends. Again, like they wanted to help, but you didn't think it through on like, oh, this was not how they wanted to help though.
Yeah. And the road to hell is paved with good intentions, because you don't go beyond the good intention. Yeah.
So how do we think she succeeded in the end? Did she do what she intended to do? I mean, she passed her trials.
She did, but she grew through them. Like that's the most important part, is that all three of her trials. So, okay, she had the one that was the heart, which was her mission. There was the one that was her, was climbing that
heart. Yeah.
Yeah. The one climbing up the mountain, and the mind was the pathfinding class. And the pathfinding class was great because she learned the value of teamwork there, which translated to her heart. And then when she learned what she needed so she could climb that mountain. But she also realized I can't climb it alone. And so she found somebody that was willing to go with her, which ended up being her mom. Yeah. Okay. We probably should have said at the beginning of this, spoilers, but like, you were going to get spoilers. You should have known if you were coming to a book study like this.
You're going to get the whole book.
Yeah. So, she climbs up that mountain with her mom, and so she learned that through the pathfinding, but she also learned that there's value in not doing things alone, which was kind of like the manifestation of that last trial, taking it on. You can't do things on your own.
Well, here's a quote from that scene where they're climbing the mountain, where by the end, it says, sitting cross-legged on the ground, Breha studied her daughter as she spoke. We look at our challenges, at our lessons, as things we master in order to achieve our goals. But the most important lessons in life sometimes have to do with what happens when we fail. How do we know when to surrender and walk away? Hello, Cass. How do we judge our own part? Got to be involved. And our failures? Is it something to learn from, or just bad luck? And how do we pick ourselves up again after? Which just says to me that her mom knows her really well. She knows her, like her rebellious young daughter, very, very well, and she knows exactly what to say to her to make her feel better about everything that happened, and about Kier's death and everything, which was horrible. But
I don't think Bale had to do any of these trials, which is why I think that
no, he didn't.
I think Bria responded every step of the way to Leia with complete understanding of what she was getting into, and that's why she didn't she didn't like break out in as much anger as Bale did at everything.
Right.
Like she's angry about certain things, but you can see the restraint, especially if you listen to the audiobook, you hear it in her voice when you look back at what was going on, and you're like, she has complete compassion for what happened, and it's because she had to do the same thing. Maybe not these specific trials, but like her mom had to bring her up and teach her what happened historically with these trials. And then to watch her own daughter go through the same thing she sort of went through, like you can see that bond between her and her mom.
How does that relate back to, like, say, Masters and Padawans? How like, you know, I like Gabe is my Jedi Master. Ross is also one of my Jedi Masters. You're one of my Jedi Masters, Allie. And I learned from paying attention to what you guys do to be a better Jedi. And I think that Leia, that you're right about Bale, that he didn't have to go through these trials because he's the viceroy, and the women rule the roost on Alderaan. That's obvious to me. That's, you know, there's a queen and a viceroy. He's like her what's the word I'm looking for? He's her not her sidekick. That's not the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, he's a little bit better than a sidekick.
He goes out and he deals with the Senate and all that kind of stuff, and all that, you know, he's out on Coruscant dealing with the Senate and all this kind of things, and he knows what happened in the Clone Wars, and he knows that terrible things happen, and he doesn't believe that he knows that bad things are on the horizon, and he's trying to protect his only daughter from them. You know, and that's important to him. That's the thing that's important to him, is he want that's his failures, and he tries so hard to protect her that she ends up like screwing up and going into all these wacky situations.
Yeah, and what's amusing to me is that
I kept saying her attaché.
Well, that's a good one.
That is a good one. That is a good one.
He's
so
like
the other thing that I found really interesting about it is that the men are the ones that treat her like she with sort of kitty gloves compared.
Yeah.
The women are the ones that like stand her up and are like, nah, look. Because even Mom Mothma is the one that's like, she's not a child. And, you know, just kind of acknowledging her coming of age into who she is. And the guys are kind of like, well, you know, but they haven't recognized just yet that she's no longer a child. And I don't know if it was like meant to be that way in a this is gonna sound really bad, in a sexist kind of manner, or if it was more like just kind of that the women were the ones that have to tell everybody, listen, she is growing into a woman. And you have to accept that Tarkin did. Well, no, Tarkin didn't.
Tarkin with the whole wine thing.
Yeah, he was just like, look what you did to your daughter.
Yeah. I'm like Moff Tarkin, shut up.
Yeah, right.
Imagine having Moff Tarkin at your dinner table.
But they all treated her like the guys treated her like a kid. And I think that was kind of an important thing for the author, was to just kind of show that it is hard for anybody. Like, even when I look at if as a woman, I might even look at my son and be kind of like, you're always going to be my little kid. But there had to be people there that had to recognize it, and she chose to make it the women that recognized it, because women do recognize each other growing to a point, and we see each other this way. And when we point it out to our male counterparts, it's like, now you have to acknowledge this, and they have to do that for us too. Yeah. Like, my husband has to do that for my son, so he's only 12.
My mom told her, sorry.
My
mom told her, the next time you're thinking of doing something like this, come talk to me first. And then she does. as soon as she finds out another thing, she runs to Mon Mothma and tells her immediately. And
Yeah.
she also I like the scene where she would go in to see Grand Moff Tarkin, and she got all she welled up with tears, and she acted like a little demure little girl princess, and she cried, and she's able to call up those tears at a moment's notice, which is a girl trick that guys don't know about. You didn't hear that, Ross.
Yeah.
You didn't hear that, Gabe.
Yeah, sure.
Hi, Ross. I see Stan by you, Ross. Look at Stan.
My sidekick here.
Sidekick.
It's my attaché.
He's your attaché. So Ross, you're a person who has students. You're a person who teaches young people. How did Leia and her training hold up in the face of like realistic, real people training, real people?
Well, much like
learning.
anybody who goes through a regiment of training and learning lessons from their teacher, and there are all kinds of expectations on both sides. So the expectations of the teacher is very high, and students fall short. But because they fall short, that just tells you that they have more to learn.
Mhm.
So she went through those growth pains of doing that, but she's like, I think she comes out as being one of his favorite students, So I have students that are like that. How I feel about Brian, how I feel about Jack. These are students that shined above all the others because of their loyalty, dedication, effort, and an attitude that they won't give up no matter what. You can keep throwing them down to the dirt and they keep getting back up. Throw them down to the they get back up. And that's with my Padawans. That's all I ever want. I don't care if they fail. I don't care I just want them to not give up. You know what I mean? But that's because you see what it is it's a tough thing for a teacher. And Allie understands what I mean by this. It's a tough thing for a teacher. We have these high expectations.
Go ahead.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
We have these high expectations of our students, and we want them to be all that they can be. And when we see them, the cool thing is when you see them blossom into this thing that you wanted, like when I get a student to the point where they're a black belt, I laughingly step back and look and go, look, I made a black belt. Look what I made. I may have led them there, but they did the work.
Right.
And that's the thing. Oh look, I sewed it together and made it. Yeah.
So do you think in that regard, as far as being a mentor and even a parent to some, you're kind of a parent to some of these kids that you train. Did Bail how did Bail and Breha handle Leia differently? Like, I mean, Bail wanted to wrap her in cotton wool and keep her safe. How does that tend to work with young people?
Wow, that's a really good question. You always want your students to be safe. That's why, like, when I teach them self-defense, I always, people have to message me right now. I always want to keep my students safe, and that's why I teach them the martial arts. But you still have to allow them to experience things for themselves.
Okay. So how do you, if they're not picking it up, if they're not learning from their errors, how do you deal with that? If they're
So I know that Master Angelos can identify with this, even with me, right? I am his Padawan. I am his knight. I am his master. Well, I'm his created, donned master. You know what I mean? He donned me a master. But the thing is, there were times where I made mistakes. He allowed me to make those mistakes. He was there to pick me back up when I made the mistakes, and he was there to make corrections so that I wouldn't make those mistakes again.
Mhm.
Am I right, Master?
Oh no, absolutely correct.
Eh.
Yeah.
But no, I mean that's the cycle, you know, that's the cycle. When you have someone who is your student and you want them to have all the advantages that you can give them, you want them to go unscathed, but they're gonna scrape their knees, they're gonna make their mistakes, they're gonna bump their elbows. I'm not even talking about martial arts now. I'm talking about emotionally, you know.
Mhm.
Emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally. They're gonna go through, and socially, I guess. You're gonna go through all these, you know, boom, 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 boom. You're gonna take all these hits, and you want them to be fine, but we hope that we give our students the tools to be able to navigate those things, to be able to come through as unscathed as possible. I think that's what Bal wanted. I think that's what Bale, sorry, Bale. I'm horrible with the names.
It's okay.
Bale wanted. Whereas, you know, the other one understood that she had experienced stuff.
Mhm. So you think Bale was trying too hard to keep her like wrapped in cotton wool, and her mom did things differently because she was the one who had already experienced these trials. Bale never went through these trials, so he didn't understand. He didn't have a full understanding of what it meant because he's basically a politician.
Right, right. Well, he doesn't understand because he's also thinking he didn't go through it, so it's really not necessary for her to go through that. I'd rather just keep her safe.
Mhm.
But experiencing those trials is part of what makes you strong.
Mhm.
You know, when I took my black belt test, you know, I mean, it was one of the toughest things I ever had to do. Um, and you know what? It literally defined me.
How old were you when you got your first black belt?
I was I was in my 20s,
Okay.
20s, I think. No, yeah. No. No. I was in my early 30s.
Oh, okay.
In my early 30s. Because I trained for a long time. I started when I was 16, and then I trained for like 12 years till I got to jujitsu. So that's 20
5 minutes.
so 28, and then you got another 4 to 6 years onto that. So I was in my early 30s. Yeah, I was in my early 30s when I got my first black belt. I had trained for martial arts for a long time, but for going through a formal black belt test, the kind that put your feet to the fire, that made you feel everything, that made you feel the heat, that made you feel the pressure, that made you, it was a lot of very intense training over and over and over and over. And I felt it. It was hard. And I was training 7 days a week. See, this is my big problem. Since we're talking about this in terms of Leia, and hopefully people watch this video, they're going to understand what I'm thinking in terms of understanding the commitment takes.
Mm-hmm.
Commitment takes. It's so funny because I was just talking about this with Master Angelus the other day, right? Wasn't I? See, I was just
Yesterday.
talking about this the other day. That
Really?
this, oh, yes, yes. I called him. I was frustrated about stuff, and I call him. He's still my master. I call him, and I'm like, I'm frustrated with this. That it seems like people don't understand the commitment it takes to get the reward that they want. They want to become a knight, or they want to become a master. They want to become a knight. Let's just say that. They want to become a Jedi Knight. It takes commitment, not just commitment where it's, well, I'll do it once a week. I'll do it once a month. I'll get there who cares? I'll eventually get. It doesn't work that way. It takes commitment. You have to put everything into it. And to this very day, we're still doing that. We're still doing that. We're still running things. We're still making things happen. So you don't get to step up to the plate and teach stuff at our meetups and whatnot if you haven't put the time in to learn it. So why do we get to be the ones that step up and stand there? Because we're the ones who put the time in to learn it in the first place. So, I want to have my Padawans do that. I was so excited now Karina was not my Padawan directly or anything like that, I do get the opportunity to teach Karina stuff, which is cool. You know, I mean, it takes a village, right?
Right.
But like,
Chicago.
so when I saw Karina get up and teach at one of our lightsaber events, oh
Mhm.
my God, my heart was so full. I was so proud of her. You know, so great. She got up at the most recent. We just had our most. We did the library event recently, in Morton Grove, and Karina got up there and she taught about, you know, breathing and meditate and getting centered and whatnot. Ah, I was so proud of her. So it's funny, but everybody thinks that, oh, we're all about, we get to stand up there and make a big deal. Oh, we're such a big deal. No, quite honestly, it's more of a big deal for us than when we get to step back and go, let our student go up front, let them show that they learn that from us. And now that's bigger.
That's like so it's so you're basically Leia's what do they call it? The God's sake, I just had it in my head. The Pathfinder. Your kids, if your students were the Pathfinder group and they had the leader who just kind of like threw them out into the middle of nowhere and said, okay, go. And they have safety equipment, they have safety devices, they're not, they're not gonna dive. And then Leia and Kier get into a situation where his thing fails, his thing that so he won't fall off the mountain fails, his force field fails, and she has to like catch him and swing him over so he's out of the ravine. She like, do we expect that kind of behavior from our students to help each other out, to work together as a team? Do we do that, or is that a good way to go? Is that a better maybe a better way to train some levels? Is to,
it's one of the main reasons why at the gathering this year, the main theme of the gathering is teamwork.
okay,
It's like we could teach them lots of stuff, but if they can't work together and figure that out, take the tools that we give you and show us you can work together to make that work. And we get to like kind of step back and go, oh, look, they got it. You know what I mean? That's
right.
The best.
Right. And we're not even dealing with like life-changing events. We're not dealing with like an empire that's going to blow us up, and we're not in any real, we're not flying spaceships, we're not in any real danger, but the emotions are still the same. People are still people, and people take things seriously. And I like to see people, I see my fellow Jedi take their studies seriously, because I did, Ross did, Gabe did, you did, we all did, we all took it seriously, and here we are. And that's a lesson that Leia had to learn.
Yeah.
That she can't do everything by herself.
Yeah, Gabe, what about you and how you see your relationship with apprentices?
He was next.
Knowing that I was one of them, I'm curious about this one.
Yeah, one of the things
now we
that
want
I
to
have,
know.
yeah,
All the Chicago Jedi secrets are coming to bear now.
Yeah, one of the things that really came to the forefront, which I guess was helpful for me, was also having very good mentors. And one of the things that they said, well, this was in seminary, one of the things that they said is like, we're not just training like students, we're training our peers. And that really stuck with me. And I have kept that same attitude, that with all these Jedi who do come under my tutelage, either directly or indirectly, is that these are the people I'm going to work with. So I need to know how they think. They need to know how I think. We need to know how to communicate so that we can accomplish things together. That you may be, yes, at some point you may have been my Padawan. Back of my mind, I've always thought like, no, this is going to be somebody I work with. Like, again, Ross and Boom have both been my Padawans, and I work hand in hand with both of them very well, because I see that these are people who, like, I will come to, is like, okay, there's this side, there's this problem, there's this situation or this problem, what's a way that we can deal with it? And they are very quick to come up with some ideas. And they know that I never lord my position over them at all. If anything, they just scoff at it. They're like, oh, okay, because they know me, and they know that that's like we're equals.
Well, you're kind of a humble guy anyway, Gabe. So
yeah,
that's just who you are. That's just who you are. But what do you do when your students fall by the wayside and when they don't step up, like Leia stepped up?
The one thing that I have been learning and continue to is, what point do I step in? That's a very hard one, which is why people say like I have an infinite amount of patience,
Mm-hmm.
because I do believe that eventually they come to the point. And even just recently, there is one kid who I've had trouble with engaging and regulating his emotions. That he is one of those that I mentioned earlier about going into other people's personal space.
Mm-hmm.
And later
And
on,
he does mean actual kid, not
yes,
an adult
yes,
kid.
actually.
Oh, okay. Okay.
These are
Just remember, this is
words.
being recorded, so no names. We're not going to give any
Oh, no,
names
yes, I
out.
know.
No. I did want to distinguish that the person
Okay.
is a literal kid.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I don't know who's talking
And
about
it was
later.
actually very recent, like a couple weeks ago, like I think they literally like 2 or 3 weeks ago, when another student, his peer group goes up to him and says like, "Hey, can I tell you something? People like the other kids don't like when you do this. Can you stop doing that, please?" And I was just like, I heard that and witnessed it, and I was just floored and going, this kid understands, like, first, this other kid understands the emotional needs of others to the point that they're willing to step in. And I think like those little advices, those little things mean more when it does come from a peer.
Yes.
Because when it's coming from the teacher, it's like, oh, okay, the teacher is just being mean. But then it's like, no, this is another kid. This is another peer. It's like, okay, well, maybe I do need to start thinking. And the interaction, I mean, those behaviors have lessened. They're still there, but they have lessened. So I think it kind of like, oh, okay. And I never gave up on the kid. I just don't know when those things will come to fruition.
Right.
And that's the thing with being a teacher. You never know when.
Well, you don't give up on people. I don't think you give up on people that easily. It takes a lot for you to throw your hands in the air and say, I'm done.
Yes, I don't. Yeah, that's another thing. I don't give up. I instead transfer them over to somebody who may do better.
Mm-hmm. Gabe, what happened to gray in your hair? It was there.
Allie,
it was there last week.
I'm
going to say this. Allie
we
still
make Gabe
don't have
feel
gray
younger every
hair.
day.
He had all gray in his hair on Saturday. It looked really sharp in the
We
in the rain.
We make Gabe feel younger all the time.
Gabe is younger all the time. He's still younger than us. All right. Well, anybody? How many? I think we maybe have covered as much as we covered. Anybody want to say some closing remarks? Allie? Start with Allie.
Definitely, this is a book y'all should read. It opens up a new pathway of looking at what happened prior to the events of A New Hope. Like, for those that don't actually know, I'm not a fan of the original trilogy or the second trilogy. Not a fan of Lucas stuff. But what brings these stories to life, what has actually made me appreciate those movies more, is that people have written stories around it, and that's given it depth. So now I can actually look at this stuff. That, and Sophia had a very good conversation with me about Empire this past weekend. She made me see some things that I was like, okay, you're right. I didn't. She's gonna watch this and be like, "Oh, Allie said that I was right." For the record, she was my student. So that peer thing that Gabe was talking about, that's always been my hope, is that I'll raise people up to be peers, because it's not just about wanting to watch them grow. I can't grow without good peers either. I need peers. So that's something that I've always wanted, and I'm always hopeful that the people I teach will become more than my peers, but like people I can also look up to. So yeah, there's there's that. But yeah, definitely not a fan of Star Wars. And if you're not a fan of Star Wars, let me tell you, some of these books will add the depth that you're looking for. And this
Mhm.
one right here definitely does that.
It does that. Gabe? Closing
Yes,
remarks?
I highly recommend this book as well. It gives a lot more development on Leia and her tribulations, I really went through. And it's also very easy to relate to her, just
Mhm.
being kind of flung into an experience that you might not be ready for. And then just how quickly you have to adapt,
Mhm.
and just all these interesting people that you like may write off at first, and then all of a sudden come out with brilliant ideas. And so it's just helped me realize that there is a lot more out there, and to just be open to it.
Okay. Ross, closing
Well,
thoughts. And I'll
I
finish up.
like I like the book from the perspective of this does in fact talk about, instead of just talking about who Leia is now during the movies, currently, it's a prequel that lets you see who she was and how she became the way she was.
Mhm.
And because she is heading in the direction of becoming a leader, it's an
Mhm.
excellent book for people who are looking to see what trials and tribulations a leader goes through, even through the early stages.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. The book we were discussing is Star Wars, the YA book, Leia, Princess of Alderaan by Claudia Gray. And I recommend that everybody pick up a copy. It's available as a book. It's available on Kindle. It's available, I listen to it on Audible, which is great. I love that. And I think people can learn a lot from this book about, and it's I find it striking that we're seeing what happens just only 3 short years before the entire planet is destroyed and the whole thing completely goes to crap. So next time in July, it's 2 months from now, not 1 month from now, we're gonna continue Leia's story, and we're gonna read this book, which is called Bloodlines, and it's also by the same author, and it deals with Leia between the movies, and when she knows she's Darth Vader's daughter. It's between the trilogies. So we'll learn more about Leia's journey as a slightly older person as we go on. Now that we've covered kind of her starting, where she came from, we know a lot more about where she started, where she came from, and why she is who she is now. But thank you guys for coming. This was really nice. And
Yeah.
hope we get more people
Thank
next
you.
time. Come on,
Yeah,
guys.
definitely. We want more people. Y'all
Fun.
missed out. This was fun. And
This was a good
you know,
discussion.
come on in
Yep.
to Jedi Mom's Book Studies.
Jedi Mom Susan
Jedi
Studies.
Mom's Book Studies.
It'll be July something, the first Tuesday in July. Same time, same place. So come join us there.